Right, all right. Uh, all right, all right, all right. Yeah. Back, we're back, we're back, we're back, we're back. Been a long time. Been a long time. Been a long time. It's been a long time, y'all. It's been a long time, y'all. It's been a long time. I am your host, the ghost with the most, and we are here on episode one, season one of Vape Talks with the Ghost. And all y'all that know me, you know that I always got the vape. So that's what it's kind of inspired by. Um, in this episode, this podcast in general, we're gonna touch on a lot of things that normal podcasters don't touch on. And the reason why I say that is if you think about the podcast categories, right? You got podcasters talking about hip hop, you got podcasters talking about what's going on in the industry, what's going on in the entertainment world. You got people talking about deep shit, people talking about shit that ain't deep or whatever, right? I even saw some of the kids on my gram, some people I knew that I grew up with, just talking about the rap scene and talking about all that. What makes us different over here is we try to come with topics. We try to come with stuff to make you think. You know what I mean? Stuff to make you kind of feel like, okay, this is something I see myself in. This is something I grew up in, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what we wanted to bring. And my idea, my vision for this podcast is to enlighten. It's not to judge. It's more to enlighten. It's more to get opinions. So we'll be inviting a lot of people on the show. I'll be inviting people that has backgrounds in all type of shit all around the world. We're gonna have so many different topics that's gonna be on there. We're really gonna discuss a lot of stuff, man. I'm gonna have a baby Annie on here. We're gonna talk about shit. Um, we're gonna talk about a lot of different things that relationship stuff. We're gonna talk about day-to-day stuff, lifestyle, all this, DJing, clubs, racism, non-racism. We're gonna be the elephant in the room. Okay. So without further ado, man, I got one of my bros that's been rocking with me since day zero of this thing. He was on the last podcast that I was doing, and he's on this new one, on this new wave. And I just want to express my appreciation to him. Everybody don't know too much about me. Is why I go by the name Ghost, but I'm from Chicago. North Pole, north side of Chicago is where I resigned for most of my time and my childhood time. But shout outs to all over the world. I was in Indiana. I was, what I'm saying, and countless different states. I currently reside in San Antonio, so I'm a San Antonio Texan. You feed. So shout out to everybody in San Antonio. And now I'm over in the Middle East. I've been over in the Middle East for quite some time now. So now you're going to get perspectives from me from the stateside. You're going to get perspectives from me over here in the Middle East. And also, I'm going to be reaching out to people in the Middle East. So y'all going to get a chance to hear stuff from people that live in the Middle East. No bullshit. You feed. So without further ado, introduce yourself, my man.
Hello, hello.
Yeah. Introduce yourself, brother. Tell the
Oh
people
snap.
about you.
Okay. All right, my bad, man. I had don't looked away for a second.
No, you
Yeah, man. I'm Enzio. A lot of most people call me Zoe from Atlanta, Georgia. Let's see. I've been over in the Middle East for 7 years, man. Shoot,
Hmm.
7 years,
Seven.
a long time.
God damn.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about some.
Putting in that work.
We're gonna be
Putting in that
real
work.
interesting today.
Yeah. So okay, continue. It's
Yeah, I was just saying we're gonna be real interesting today.
gonna be interesting, man. I'm glad to have you back, bro. I appreciate you coming back, man. Appreciate you holding it down. Um, yeah, because definitely, man, this is a subject that needs to be touched. So the title is, who was the most harmful to black neighborhoods in the 70s? Drug dealers or the government? Was Franklin the hero or the cop in Snowfall? So a lot of y'all out there either saw the series, y'all either saw the series Snowfall, or some of y'all didn't. All right. But what I want to touch on first, for the people that didn't see the series, we gonna get into who was the most harmful to black neighborhoods in the 70s: the drug dealers or the government. So I'm gonna kick off with my opinion on it. And of course, we all remember, none of us actually lived back then or whatever, but we do have stories, and we do have people that we know. So basically, we talking more so opinions and shit. But I do like to bring in facts, and everything, every opinion most of the time should have a fact to go with it. Because if not, then you just babbling. You know what I mean? And you're just talking out of emotions. But we gonna talk emotions, we gonna talk opinions, we gonna talk facts, we gonna talk all that. You know what I mean? Let's talk about it. So I'm gonna kick it off with who I think was the most harmful to to black neighborhoods in the 70s: drug dealers or the government. Well, first I'm gonna say this. It was a hand-to-hand combat and terrorizing and taking down a black neighborhood in the 70s. And we all know that the government played its part by making drugs accessible to be able to get. Because, like, I hear this shit all the time. Yo, how the hell did the drugs get in the hoods? You know what I mean? They didn't just come there. The motherfuckers, nobody knew how to get on a boat and go get it, or nobody. Okay, I hear you. I got you. I feel you. But at some point, we as a people got to start taking accountability for a lot of this shit. All right. I feel like the most harmful, because that's the question. Who was the most harmful? Not who is the one who planted the drugs, but who was more harmful to black neighborhoods in the 70s? To me, I'm going with the drug dealers, man. Drug dealers was the most harmful. Reason being, back in those days, you know what I mean? You had everybody was on the drug game. All right. Not just black people, Mexicans, Italians, white people. There was a bunch of motherfuckers that was getting into the drug game as far as selling it, as becoming not only a consumer, but actually supplying it. Right. So I feel like the drug dealers did it the worst in the black neighborhood because they was selling that shit to their own kind, not because because they was selling drugs, but they was selling that shit to their mom, their sisters, or somebody else's mom, sisters, brothers, cousins, uncles. All that shit got affected because they didn't want to take the shit out the neighborhood. They felt like it was easier to sell it, and there was guidelines. So like if you got drugs from the plug and the plug was from Colombia, that nigga was like, "You're not selling that shit over here. You're not selling that shit to our people. Your block, your territory is over here. This is where it's gonna be." And guess where over here was? In a black neighborhood. So in my opinion, they was the worst motherfuckers for tearing down the neighborhood because they started selling that shit right in their own neighborhood and refused to go poison anybody else. They poisoned their own fucking community. What do you think about that, bro?
Well, I look at it like this. Um, I know you kind of put things into context, but in most cases, man, we can't overlook the history of our people. Anytime we talk about our people, we can't overlook the history because the history is the reason as to where we are now. I do understand your point in terms of saying we need to start owning up to a lot. Well, those I'll keep it general. So we need to start owning up to our mistakes for the betterment of our community, because then we can start trying to do things to fix a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the things once you start owning up to your part of it. But we just can't overlook the history, man. Like we can try to group everything in the box and say, hey, we know how this happened, but the things that happen to our people kind
Mm-hmm.
of put us in the box, because you got to understand that we during those times the men wasn't working, and it wasn't because they couldn't work. You built the whole country and then turn around and build our own communities, and out of nowhere we can't find jobs when blacks were the main ones that had those skills coming out of whatever situations that we was in. So all of a sudden we get to the even during the 40s when we was in depressions, the blacks were doing their thing. But the depression, anytime something happens in America, it happens worse to our community. And 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 it's mainly because we have always been on, I don't want to say below, but we haven't been treated fairly. So the major thing is I would stick to the basis of anything. If you can uh uh establish a base of anything, then you'll always know what your problem is. So our
Right.
problem has always been our history, and we
When
do
you
have
say
to move on.
history, though, what does that have to do with selling drugs to the community? The history, how
Well,
does the history take you to selling drugs in your own neighborhood?
well, okay. So the clear one thing though, black people wasn't the only ones selling drugs in the neighborhood. So,
Right.
but
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
the
whoa.
thing is, the
What you mean they weren't
history of, I'm sorry,
what you mean they weren't the only ones selling drugs in their community? Them other dudes wasn't
we
selling
wasn't the
drugs in the
only
community.
ones selling in our community. I'm sorry.
Hispanics wasn't selling that shit in their neighborhood. The motherfuckers had to take that shit off somewhere. They weren't selling it. Italians had a strict law on that shit. Italians was like, look, you could sell it, but you cannot sell it in your neighborhood. You would get violated. Niggas getting killed for selling that shit in their own neighborhood. They weren't selling that shit in their own neighborhood. They was either they were either distributing like Pablo was. They were taking that shit and giving it to like whoever was the kingpin in another neighborhood and giving it to them to go kill they fucking people off. They weren't selling that shit in their neighborhood. They were suppliers. That's why the black community, we always say shit like, we're gonna go to the plug. Fuck going to, why are you not the plug? At what point do you become the plug? Like, you're going to the plug. So you're going to another motherfucker to get some shit and come back and terrorize your own neighborhood with. You're not the plug. They became the plug to other people in the neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like, I say I hit a lick. I got a dude from Colombia. He giving me the best coke that I could have. So I come back to my neighborhood, sell it in my neighborhood, because I'm telling you, they had strict guidelines. If Okay, let's take for example some of these drug kingpins back in the day that terrorized the neighborhood. And that, for y'all that don't know a lot about um the cocaine shit, I was infatuated with that shit back in the day. I studied all these motherfuckers. So I'm a big, I'm a big Pablo Escobar fan. I loved Frank Lucas until I kind of came into, as you're young, you look up to toxic shit. I figured that out as I got older. When you young, you look up to the most toxic motherfuckers, right? Like, these dudes are selling drugs. Frank Lucas was literally selling drugs all through the fucking neighborhood. Then look, you got motherfucking Bumpy Johnson, who was his actual the person he learned his shit from. That dude had a daughter that was strung the fuck out. His own daughter, strung out on the shit. He leave her in the street, but he rolling around in the nice whips and shit. Italians telling him, listen, you control this street to that street in Harlem, in your area. But let me catch you selling that shit anywhere else, it's your fucking head. Let any of your people sell that shit to any of our people, it's your fucking head. So what black motherfucker was standing up at that time? Drug dealers that was saying, look, fuck that. I'm selling that shit over here. I'm gonna go bring it to another neighborhood. Who was saying that? I,
Where's Pablo Escobar from again?
Pablo Escobar's from Colombia.
He started off selling in Colombia, bro.
No, he started off
And
selling cigarettes. He started off selling
yeah,
cigarettes in Colombia. It's
he
harmless.
started he started it was drugs, bro. He probably sold cigarettes too, but
Yep.
when that coca plant that he started distributing started in his own community, bro, and it worked its way to the Americas. He's it, hold on, I don't have facts on everyone, but I find it hard to believe that everyone decided not to sell in their neighborhood, but I know for a fact Pablo Escobar started in his community.
So who did
But
he
my
sell?
thing is,
Who, who,
I'm sorry.
who did he sell to in his? Because he was in Medellin. He went to when they formed that whole cartel. They formed a whole cartel and laid down all the rules. There was no cocaine being sold in the neighborhood. The cocaine was being exported to Miami. You got to remember, his connect to get drugs was in Miami. It wasn't from the plant. His connects to get drugs was Griselda. He was linking up with Griselda to get cocaine. And then his they sat down as a whole and laid down the rules for the shit. Nobody's selling cocaine here. In fact, this nigga was building up fucking houses and building new shit in the neighborhoods in there. That's why some people was calling this dude a god in Colombia, because this dude was building houses. He was building. Go look at some of the shit that he was doing for the community. He was building new soccer fields, sports shit. This motherfucker walk around Medellin. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what I'm doing for the community. Nobody even knew this dude was selling drugs. That's how he had the shit on lock, because he was flooding Miami. He didn't give a fuck about nobody in Miami. Those ain't his people. So his whole mindset was to flood Miami with cocaine. That's why America got involved. If he was just selling to his own community in Colombia, you think fucking the United States would have sent CIA out there to fuck with him? No. He was selling that
Yeah,
shit in Miami. He
I,
was
I'm
flooding
I'm
Miami.
I'm sure they would have sent the CIA out there because um, eventually all the families went to America, so they would have done it anyway, man. Like that's the case. The U.S. wouldn't send the CIA to other places in the world that hasn't made its way to America. So I don't. I think they would have did that, but in terms of like who were the most impactful or who destroyed the neighborhood,
Yeah.
I think I do believe that there's a even trade off in terms of a 50-50 type deal.
Uh-huh.
But with me, my biggest thing, you got to remember where everything started from, because if you put people in a fight or flight situation, they gonna fight to the death, man. So, and I'm not making no excuses, but
Yeah.
my thing was when I grew up, all we had was the dope boys to look up to. They was the ones we seen with everything we liked. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? They was the one looking out in the neighborhood, and even though they did their things, but nobody could just come in the neighborhood and be reckless, especially on outside. So they kind of protected the neighborhood also.
Yeah.
So, um, um, I look at it in a situation as to where when when our women decided to go to the welfare system, it ain't like they had a choice.
Right.
It ain't like they sat back and was like, you know, I got a choice to have this man with this nice job. They was like, our men aren't working. Our men can't work, and we need help. So it was almost like, either they gonna sit back and struggle more, because even with welfare, they still struggling. So it's like you gonna struggle more and try to hope this man can find a job, which is less likely because they literally wasn't hiring black men like that.
Well,
Or you
okay.
go and try to find some.
So
I'm
let me
sorry.
ask you. Let me ask you a quick question. Sorry, not to cut you off.
Okay.
Let
No,
me
no,
ask
you
you.
good.
Let me ask you a question. So back then, who was if you weren't selling drugs, what were you doing? Sitting in a house chilling? How was rent being paid?
Yeah, they were trying to figure stuff out. So when somebody provided a way, you got to
So
remember though, like it didn't just take off like that. Like the guys, like what, it wasn't introduced. However they got it, because the whole conspiracy about the CIA. However they got it,
yeah,
it didn't just take off like that. Because you remember, and if I know you remember this conversation. We had protectors back then that wasn't playing it,
right.
so it didn't take off. And then a lot of guys was hesitant because anything new to your community, you gonna look at it and be like, man, I don't know about this. So it
So let
didn't
me
just take off like that.
so let me ask you a
But
quick
you get
question.
enough people,
Let me ask
uh,
you. Let me ask you a quick question. Why you on that? So
all
okay.
right,
So then, like we said, we're talking about the garters, the people that actually gave a fuck about the community, right? Your Malcolm X's, your Martin Luther
okay,
King. So was
Yep.
jobs harder to get in the fucking 70s, the 60s when these dudes was doing they shit? Or was it easier to get a job in the 70s, the late 70s when drugs started hitting the communities? Who had it easier to get a job?
Well, you got to remember though. I mean, I don't know who had it easy or who had it hard, but the unemployment rate was terrible for black people during that time, man. You got to also remember our community was much more together too, especially during the civil rights movement. They, if someone needed, they had it from the neighbor, and so we developed this individual mindset, which stopped us from being able to overcome the hands that were dealt with us. So, even now, if you think about when people make it, they not thinking about nobody but themselves, my haters, that's what I did. You know what I'm saying? They always think about, I came from the bottom. It ain't we started from the bottom. It's always me, my, me. So we developed that individual mentality, and that also helped turn up the community because like I said, at one point, if one person needed, you just could go to your neighbor. Now you can't even trust your neighbor, but in some cases, you can't even trust family. So what that means, if you can't trust nobody, you got to try to do it on your own. If you got to put food on the table, you got to do what you got to do, man. That's why dudes rob. Like they get, and I'm not making no excuses for it because I have never robbed nobody a day in my life.
Yeah.
But I understand it. You know what I'm saying? Like growing up and seeing this stuff, bro. Like
So
I understand it.
I get what you're saying on that, but there's two points that we skipping over.
Okay.
One, it was definitely harder to get a job in the Martin Luther King and Malcolm X days because you just left out of Jim Crow. So at Jim Crow was the highest peak. And even then, in the Jim Crow era, nobody was selling drugs and motherfuckers was still living. Motherfuckers was still finding a way to get that money. Was it because you got to understand this. These time frames, it wasn't like you couldn't get a job. It's that you weren't getting paid the exact type of amount that you should be getting that another dude was getting that was white or was of another. Well, back then it was just clear black and white, right? It was just clear black and white. If you was black, you wasn't getting the best high end paying job. Even if you knew the job to a T, you was getting paid. You were getting underpaid. You weren't getting the recognition you were supposed to get, but you still had a job. Now, if it was between you and a white dude, white dude was going to get the job over you, right? So it's going to make these are the things that the forefathers was fighting for, equality, not so much as fighting for a motherfucker just ain't got a job. No, motherfuckers always had a job. Black people always found a way to get money. They always found a way to get money. What happened with the drug shit was, as everybody knows, black people in general, we love the finer things, but we get clouded with what really is finer things, which is why I say the drug guys was the most harmful because at this point they weren't getting this shit just to have money. They were getting this shit to had a new Beamer. They was getting this shit to had a new gold chain. They was getting this shit to go stunt in the club. That's what they was getting the money for. Get the 3-finger rings to shine, the bling. This is what the culture started, and that's when it became the every man for himself. Because now it's like I'm getting money over here, and I'm not sharing no money over there because we trying to be the top bosses over here. That's where the greed came in. The CIA and whoever else was involved in the demise, they just simply gave you the candy to eat. They gave you the rope to hang yourself. They put it in the neighborhood and said, here, go ahead, go destroy the community. Because we know none of these other nationalities is going to let you bring that shit over there to their neighborhood. So we know we're going to be able to get a 2-for-1. We're going to be able to have the demise of the community. We're going to be able to lock your black ass up once you get caught selling this shit. So now the families is broken homes, right? This is where the welfare comes into play. The welfare comes into play because now the father is not in the house, not because he was walking on the neighborhood doing his 9-to-5 job and gets arrested. He's doing drugs. He's selling drugs to try to make more money than what he had, easier money than what he had, and now he gets locked up. So now he don't get the normal sentence. This is where the racism comes into play because now they hit him with football numbers. He get 30 fucking years, you know what I mean? And he not even a big time dope boy, right? He get 30 years. So now the family is broken, the home is broken. Again, this is stimulating from the fact that instead of them doing what the forefathers were doing, paving a way to get that money legit, it's the same thing we have right now. Right now, young motherfuckers is looking at two options. One, get paid the fast way, go sell drugs, go rob a motherfucker. There's no excuse to rob a motherfucker. Listen, I've done it. I can talk about it. I have no open cases. I've done it before. I've been on both ends of the fence. And guess what? The only reason I did this shit was the greed. I wanted to just, I saw kids in my school dressing the way they was dressing. They parents had money, right? They was getting all the new gear and all that shit. So I want that gear. I want to be the dude on top. So I started doing negative shit. I started doing criminal shit to even the scoreboards. It wasn't because we couldn't have, because we just couldn't get a job. I didn't want a fucking normal job. I was working at a grocery store. I didn't want that shit. I want to get the money fast, and I want the money now. That's what it's about. It's about the greed. Malcolm X days, Martin Luther King days, it was way harder to get a job. Way harder. And those people still made a way. You know what I mean? The drugs, when it hit the neighborhood, it was a specific choice. Get the drugs, but guess what? You got to sell to, everybody was in on this shit. The government was in on it. Sell it in your neighborhood. The fucking other people, the Italians, all these other nationalities, sell it to your people. We took it and sold it to our people. There's no cut and dry on that. History is history, and I respect history. History is what made all of us, right? But we got to take accountability. Accountability is, motherfucker, you didn't have to go sell drugs. The dude next door to you wasn't selling drugs. He became a cop. The dude next to you wasn't doing this. He became a fucking firefighter. There was many other ways. Join the fucking military. They didn't want to do that shit. I know. I was in a neighborhood where niggas was like, you joining the army? What the fuck? Hell no. You know what I'm saying? We gonna keep getting this money. You know what I mean? Like that's the mentality of us in the neighborhood, because we get to that point where we don't give a fuck about nothing else. We just want to get that money. We want to be on top. We want to be the shine. You know what I mean? Then rap came along and niggas is rapping about it. So now it's glorifying it. All this shit adds up. But guess what? It's us. Who's singing rap music? Ain't no white dude singing rap music about selling drugs and doing shit. It's another black motherfucker talking that shit. You know what I mean? That's the case. We got to get out of this, you know what I'm saying, the history shit and all that. Yeah, the history happened, but you have a choice. That's why me and you are sitting here together. We're sitting here today together getting money and legal. We ain't got to worry about it getting taken. We sitting here as two black men that's from the streets. We not no motherfuckers that was, you know, had a what my man say on Nino, what Nino Brown say, we ain't have a silver spoon in our mouth. You know what I'm saying? We had to get it from the mud. And look where we at. We made the choice. We took the difficult, we took the hard route. The easy route is get some drugs, sell it, and boom. Selling in the neighborhood. You know they gonna keep coming back because they right in the neighborhood. Money gonna come right back to you. You know what I mean? But we took the better route. We're not gonna sabotage the people. We'll sabotage ourselves. We'll risk going to war. We'll risk doing this or that to get paid. You know what I mean? That's where it boils down to, man. You know, these drug dealers, man, listen, we all looked up to them, and that's what sabotaged the neighborhood. We didn't look up to the CIA. Nobody looked up to the fucking government. Everybody looked up to the dope boy.
Nobody else was coming to the hood like that though. And the only time the police came, well, I'll say the police came out, but they didn't come out like that to impact the kids though. They came out to mess with whoever was there. So they went it like nobody was coming. You ain't see Oprah and got Bill Cosby. You ain't see none of that. You seen ball players and dope boys. But still
Yeah,
at the end of the day, man, I look at the situation a little bit similar, but look, because I think two things could be. So I do agree that the option was always to not sell drugs was there,
yeah,
but you can't overlook the circumstance. But there was literally a higher freeze against black people, and the reason why blacks wasn't going into other neighborhoods because they no other neighborhoods, bro.
why
The whole thing was set up like that. So one of the things, what I'm sorry.
why couldn't they go to other neighborhoods and sell drugs there?
So they back. You can't go nowhere. Like literally, bro. Like where else were they going? Because you got to remember, at
The
one point,
Mexicans. They
all
could have
the
took it to
Europeans looked
Mexico.
at each other as you got to remember at one point the Europeans looked at each other as Europeans at one point.
What
They
about the
didn't
Mexicans?
separate themselves until the money started coming in this time. That's when they started separating themselves because when they thought that the Africans, because back then they called us Africans, what they thought the Africans were going to uh, become the majority in the United States. That's when
Yeah.
they started reaching out to everybody. They started reaching out to anybody that was black, anybody that was of European descent. They gave them our 40 acres and a mule. They gave them everything that we was promised, and then turned down what we had. Even though after that we still was able to do our thing. So you can't say that you got to acknowledge that when you take everything from somebody and give them nothing in return, they
Yeah.
build their own thing. Then you take that from them and then put them in a condensed area
Hmm.
and say, "We're not hiring your men." The women were still going and doing their main things, and all that stuff was still going on. They were still going to being nurses and things like that, but they wasn't given the opportunities and given the best situations to be
Could they
able to think they have, because you got to be able to think you have another way at one point.
could they
Like
have
if you
joined the
put if
military?
you
Could they have
I'm
joined
sorry,
the military?
yeah,
Could they have joined the
yeah, but you
military?
got yeah, but you got to remember, bro. Like when you think military, because I thought this too. And before I joined, the first thing I thought, like, man, I'm about to get shot in the head. Because if you don't know enough about the military, like, for you
So
to know that
what
that we
happens when you sell
should.
drugs? No. What happens when you sell drugs and
So
gangbang? Do you not get shot in the head?
yeah, but that's what they used to though. So I'm just saying, like,
We
but
all
you
saw
gotta look
motherfuckers
at the
get killed.
mentality.
We all
Right,
saw.
but you're right. I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing at all. But you got to remember, bro. Like you only know what you know. You used to seeing this happen over here.
You don't know selling drugs. That's all new. You have to be brought up under an umbrella for that shit. That shit's an organization.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like
Somebody got to take you under
you
the
see
wing.
these things. Yeah, right. You see these things. That's what I'm saying. When I say you don't know what you know. You see this. You literally see the dope boys all the time, bro. But when you see the military, it's Saving Private Ryan. It's you know what I'm saying? It's all these crazy movies. It don't tell you that you can secure your future, pay for college. You know what I'm saying? Get your whatever certifications you need for your job. I got I, the military helped me with my fear of height, bro. I'm still scared of it a little bit, but it helped me tremendously with my fear of height, man. Like,
Yeah,
so we're not taught that when we're, growing up because anything police and military related, we look at it as a negative thing. So it
yeah,
ain't until you get it, because, like I'm saying, I was in a situation where I was like, look, man, I'm not about to be washing cars the rest of my life.
yeah,
So I joined the military, and now since I've been in, I tell, especially black kids, man, I tell them, and it's supposed to anybody, not just black kids. If
yeah,
you're undecided about your life, man,
yeah,
join the military, bro. If you don't know what you want to do once you get out the military, because
yeah.
I've always been in IT, I just needed a career boost. Even
Right.
that, if you just need something that's gonna boost your career, man, join the military. But they wasn't being told that back then. And then you gotta also remember that our protectors back then, like the Black Panthers, they was getting taken out. They were bringing the military to the neighborhoods. So
Right.
the community is not having the best depiction unless they have family members in the military telling them, "No, that's not what you think it is."
So
So
let so let me ask,
it's
so let
just a
me ask you another
complicated
question.
thing, bro.
Let me ask you
Uh,
another question then. Okay, that's
yeah,
a great point, by the way, about the military, the perception of the military in those days. Like you said, it wasn't as glorified. So, motherfucker. But I mean, you look at shit like Boys in the Hood and shit, right? Shout
yeah,
out to the bug on his shirt.
yeah.
Yeah.
That thing
Um,
funny.
I appreciate you, bro. But you look at like this era. This is 80s. I think this is late 70s, 80s when Boys in the Hood came out, right? Or maybe close to 90s. Could be. It could be
They're
both.
nice.
Yeah, 90s, right? So
Yeah,
you get the perception, even in that movie, they talk about how like and oh boy, he actually ends up they got all the military shit and all that, right? And they address that. So that's a great
yeah,
point you brought up. But I got another question. So then you had the Black Panthers. you had Malcolm X, you had Martin Luther King. Why every black person wasn't behind one of those organizations then? That was a positive one. That was one that was for the community. Why wasn't those people all behind that? What's the reason between why didn't, if that's the case, if you had the protectors of the neighborhood, you had the Black Panthers, because listen, I remember the Black Panthers was around the same time that a lot of gangs started forming. A lot of street gangs started forming during that same time period that the Panthers was making they ways around, because they was even going and talking to the gangs, trying to get the gangs out of selling drugs, trying to get the gangs out of. Let's look at Bumpy Johnson. Bumpy
Hey,
Johnson,
hey,
Bumpy
bro.
Johnson, same
They
era as
they
Malcolm
weren't
X.
just talking though. They weren't just talking though, bro. Some of them cases they was kicking them guys' ass, bro.
Yeah,
Them
yeah,
dope boys they have pulled that they have now. It was the Panthers that had the power back then, so they was like, bro, they weren't just going over like, hey, stop. They were like, bro, we gonna take care of you if you don't.
yeah.
So,
Right.
man,
So why did they continue to sell? That's my point. So Panthers is rolling around, so they are getting ways to get funded. They're finding ways to do it without selling drugs, without destroying the community. They're even
yep,
talking to the people destroying the neighborhood and saying, "Hey,
yep,
stop that shit, cut it out." You had
yep,
Bumpy Johnson. Bumpy Johnson was big selling that shit in Harlem, right? But you had at the same time, he is in the same exact era as fucking Malcolm X. Actually, they was homeboys. Malcolm X is telling this dude, yo, you need to think further than that. Think about your people. You got a daughter strung out. Woo, woo, woo. And he not listening to that shit. Why was he not listening to it? He didn't give a fuck. He didn't give a fuck about the community, bro. That's why I say they're the most detrimental to the fucking neighborhood, because there's no excuse for them. There's no history about this. There's no nothing. This is pure sheer greed. This is pure sheet. Fuck all that. Bumpy Johnson could have teamed up with Malcolm X. They could have teamed up and did some positive shit.
it's great. Well, you gotta remember, bro, our community has always been, um, we always gonna challenge everything, man. So, nobody agreed with Dr. King about everything, bro. He's probably the most uh peaceful guy you can think of. He literally said, "Go get your ass beat and don't fight back." And people still found a way to make a problem with him. They had a problem with Malcolm X for trying to defend yourself.
Yeah.
So they don't always. It's always gonna happen like that. But the thing is, going back to my earlier statement, the community got separated, which is why those things had to happen, man. Because you can't rely on the community no more.
But who
What was that?
separated?
Bro, you can hear, listen to the stories of your, listen
Who,
to the stories of your greats, bro. They'll tell you how they.
who separated the community? Who separated the community? Blacks. They separate their own
It
fucking community.
was how we separated the
You have
community
Malcolm X.
when.
You have Malcolm X leading the
uh,
charge. You had the Black Panthers leading the
Okay,
charge. Who went against them?
okay.
Other blacks. Other black people challenged what was something positive for the neighborhood. Because why? Now you cutting into my money. When you waking up these people, when you waking up these young generation of kids, telling them, fuck that, you're killing your community, come with us. That was detrimental to the drug dealers' agenda, because their agenda is to get paid. That's why when you have mentioned
Yeah,
that
the agenda is to get
giving
paid
trophies,
because of the situation they was put in, though. It
what
ain't like
situation?
they just woke up and was like, it ain't like they just woke up all prosperous and like, man, I like this mansion that I'm in, let me go put some crack on these streets, something that I don't need to do. No,
Neither
they
did
was like,
Malcolm X
bro,
and
my
the Panthers.
family, they was
Malcolm
like,
X,
bro, my family, I'm about to lose everything. I'm not even welcome to my house no more. I got to do something.
nah, that's not why.
Real
I
talk,
gotta
bro.
disagree.
Bro,
That's
them
not
guys
why.
wasn't just selling drugs because they
These
just thought it was some
motherfuckers
cool
didn't
stuff to
turn to
do.
drugs because of that, bro. If that was the case, these motherfuckers would have joined the Nation of Islam, because the Nation of Islam was giving jobs. They took the
But
excuse
nobody
away.
wanted to do all that, bro. You talking about religion? You know, bro,
See, that's
because you got to
what
think
I'm talking
about it.
about.
Think about it.
That's
Just think
why
about it,
would you
bro.
want to?
You got to think about it, bro. Even to this day, the Islamic faith isn't the most popular in the U.S., bro. Back then, the Islamic, it was mostly Christians. You know, the Christians and telling them to join the Nation of Islam? Most
Oh,
of them folks was Christians back then,
but
bro.
But you're talking about money. You saying that people would
Right.
fight or flight. This is your words.
Yes.
When you're
Yes. Right.
they will fight. So you got a positive dude telling you we'll give you a job. Stop looking for a job for the fucking white man. You can have your own damn job. Here's how you can do it. Come with us. And they say, nah, I ain't trying to do that. I'd rather get drugs and sell it to the community and make a quick make quick bread.
There's no
Buy
way
the
the
newest,
Nation of
buy the
Islam.
newest car, buy the newest fur fucking coat, buy the newest chain. Nah, bro, we cannot give them a pass, bro. That's a slap
Bro,
in
I'm
the
not
face.
giving them a pass.
You're
I'm
giving
not
them
giving them a pass.
you're,
I'm not giving them a pass. I'm saying that I understand why they started doing what they were doing
how
because
do
it
you
was like
understand that?
you making it
How?
seem like they just out of nowhere just started being like, man, I just want to do this.
They
It was way more complicated than that, man.
no, they did.
It wasn't.
They saw another motherfucker sell drugs, and it's like a fucking plague. That's why the CIA
Bro,
and the government put it in
at
that
one
neighborhood.
point, during the early 20th century, we had doctors, bro. You don't think they could have pushed them medicines to the neighborhood to sell them drugs, bro? Like they could have been doing it way before the cocaine came into America, bro. We had doctors in communities that didn't need no help.
Yeah.
They didn't push that to the community because they didn't need no money.
No,
They
they
had
they
community.
they didn't push it to the community because motherfuckers don't want to take the time to become a doctor. Bro, you got to take accountability. Motherfuckers don't want to
No,
be a
no, no,
doctor.
no. I think you missing what
Motherfuckers
I'm
want to
saying,
make
bro.
quick money.
You you
They
missing what I'm saying, bro. What I'm saying is they were already doctors in those communities.
who
They
was?
were bankers and lawyers. Those guys that was doctors will always have medicine to get you high. Any time in history, doctors have always had drugs, bro. Any type of drug, any type of morphine-related drug, they have
Yeah.
always had that. They
Yeah.
didn't push it to the communities because they didn't need to.
The
They
Panthers
had the wealth.
the Panthers pushed
I'm,
those medical facilities. They even made medical facilities for black people to go to because when you was going to hospitals, they was letting you die in the motherfuckers because they didn't want to help black people. So they was letting you die in the hospital. The Panthers had already did that. Step ahead
no,
of
I'm
it,
talking
bro.
about even before then, though.
Panthers step ahead of it.
I'm talking about during the time when we had our own, because everybody like to refer back to Jim Crow when niggas were being hung and killed with no recourse.
Right.
When our communities had their own thing, their own driving, working money. The system worked within our communities then.
Right.
We had doctors, bro. Those doctors had drugs. Those drugs were
Right.
never pushed to the neighborhood to get the neighborhoods and communities because they didn't have to. Nobody thought back then, I need to do what I got to do because they already had a trade by the time they was 10 years old. So that's a community working is what I'm saying. When the community got turned down, because the men always look to lead the community. When that stopped happening in our community, that's when everything changed. Like you got to remember, the government interfered in everything, but we can't talk about anything black without talking about the history. Now, in terms of making it as an excuse for your whole life, I agree. Sooner or later, we got to wake up out of that mattress and be like, look, man, like it's happening. That I'm seeing examples of people succeeding
Wait,
every
wait.
day.
But we can't wait. So you just told me that the people that was in the neighborhoods before they destroyed the neighborhoods were not selling drugs. They were the most successful actually. And they were
I'm
doctors,
not saying they're
lawyers,
not
etc.
selling drugs. I'm not saying they wasn't selling drugs. What I'm saying was because you had to sell your drugs to people, to the patient.
No, I'm
But I'm
talking about
saying they
crack.
wasn't.
I'm talking about crack. I ain't talking about fucking
But
methamphetamine.
what I'm saying
They
is,
were selling
what what I'm saying is, in any time in history where there's doctors, there's the ability to get high. Is what I'm saying.
yeah. Oh, you mean
So
like the customer abusing it? But that's a different thing. That would
I'm
just
not
mean
talking about customer
like lean.
abuse. I'm talking about the doctors that know that they can make some extra money because everybody want to get high. But look, you got to look at
Oh, right. But
I,
they
I,
didn't choose that route. is what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying, because they didn't have to. There's always been drugs. There's always a way to get high. There's so
I'm
many different plants around this thing.
I'm talking about cocaine. I'm not talking about getting high off of a prescription and abusing it. That's called abusing drugs. That's like a pharmaceutical drug that's pharmaceutical that you doubled up and turned into a drug. I'm talking about crack cocaine. Motherfuckers wasn't
Right? But it
selling
still can happen though. It still can happen though. I get what
it.
you're saying with the, because an addiction is still an addiction, bro. You got people that are addicted to painkillers.
Yeah,
So,
that's by choice.
um,
Though. That's by them.
right,
Nobody, a drug dealer didn't come to them and say, "Hey, look, I got something for you to try that you need to take that's gonna get you feeling better." And then these motherfuckers get hooked on it. No, the doctor told them take one of these motherfuckers, take one at night, and they went home and took 5 of them motherfuckers and felt like they was floating on the sky, and now they hooked on some shit. I'm
right.
talking about
And you know
people that
what didn't
feel
never
drugs.
happen? And you want to know what didn't happen?
What did happen?
When the guy kept coming to the doctor saying, "Hey, doc, I need more prescriptions," the doctor wasn't prescribing them extra medicine to get them high.
Yeah,
They
they
wasn't
couldn't
doing
get
it. They
the
could have made
community.
more money, bro.
Because they cared about their community. They cared
That's
about the people that was
that's
coming in
true.
there.
That's
That's what
true.
I'm saying. Black people can always control the narrative to a certain extent. Now, again, I'm not saying, and I want people to understand this. I'm not saying that the government did not play a role in supplying it. They were the plug, meaning they were the outlet for a motherfucker to keep coming back and get shit to go sell to the neighborhood. But if
Mm-hmm.
they had chose not to do that, like the predecessors, like the gatekeepers, if they had did that, we would not be having this discussion about the neighborhoods because guess what? It would have been, look, everybody would have been on one accord. You're not selling that shit over here. We don't condone that in the neighborhood. The Panthers was doing that. The Panthers was
Yeah.
saying, we will not do that. And guess what?
Yeah.
Overthrown by thirsty, greedy, hungry motherfuckers who did not want to do the shit the right way. They didn't give a fuck about the neighborhood. They wanted the best fucking Beamer that came out. They want the best chain that came out. And then they give a fucking few turkeys out for Thanksgiving and feel like that clears the conscience of people. No, it does not. They were still destroying the neighborhood. The CIA and the government, they played a heavy instrumental thing in the fucking whole portion of it. They are
Yeah.
hands down the supplier. But guess what? Suppliers are no good if you ain't buying. That's like motherfucking Martin Luther King did with the best thing he could have ever did in the fucking movement of his, which was boycotting. That was boycotting the suppliers. The suppliers was the motherfuckers controlling the bus, controlling the restaurants, controlling this, controlling that. So you take the money away from that, boom. They have no way to infiltrate the neighborhood. It's always been us destroying us. They just help you destroy us. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the plan though. Well, that's the plan to get it started. You get it
Yeah.
started, you ain't gotta do that now. You gotta look at it, man. Like even to this day, and on the continent,
Yeah.
they look at Western societies like the US, Canada, they look at those places as like God's gift to the world.
You're right.
Then they get over to the US and all these countries and be like, "Hey man, I got to pay what? What is a tax? Nigga, I got to pay. I just paid taxes on these potato chips. You saying I got to pay more taxes?
Yeah.
I got this house. Oh, I got to pay. I got to pay to the escrow, so I won't be getting. Like, it's so much stuff that you have to do that they don't know, so they get bamboozled when they
Mm-hmm.
get over here. And at the end of the day, you end up hearing them saying, "Man, it's so much easier back home." Because at the end of the day, it's a mental thing, bro. It's even mental to think that we can't work together.
Yeah.
Everything is mental. So once you play into someone's mind for so long, it becomes normal. I don't have to tell you. They don't have to tell Africans no more that yeah, it's a better life on the West. They got to tell them that no more. Because you get somebody like me that go on there and be like, man, it's a ghost over here. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's even like that. So and so like after a while, man, it's like a well-oiled machine. Like look at how we talk about like in the community. One of the phrases we hear is support black owned businesses. You shouldn't even have to say that. It should be a thought, afterthought. It shouldn't even be an afterthought. It should be just normal to just go and want to support a black business. Then you would get someone that'll have one problem with a customer service rep on a black business and say that's why I don't support black business. Then they'll go to McDonald's and get their food spit in.
Yeah.
So it's a mental thing that we have that we have to overcome. They've done a really good job of doing it. That's why I when I see people like you, I got a cousin like Tim. Y'all remind me so much of each other, bro. It's crazy, bro. But
Hey,
I associate myself.
join my
My
live
bad.
again, Joe. Joe, it went off while I was on live. This is the part 2 on it on the live on the Instagram. If you get a chance.
I'm on. I thought I was still on. Hold up.
Yeah, it canceled out.
Let me go out.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, man. But like I said, bro, I still have to come back with only way black people get infiltrated is when we go against each other. If we had the
Yep.
unity, if we kept the
All right. What are we
moral
doing? All right, there we
compass.
go.
Oh, did you go on there? Let me see if you go.
I'm about to come back.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking dead at your ass.
Oh,
I'm about to request to join.
all right, bet. Let me see. Oh, I say joined already, so you back on.
All right.
Oh wait, no. Okay, let me see. View. Okay, boom. Yeah. I feel like I hear what you're saying, and I'm right on board with it. Minus, I still feel like everything and every time we've been infiltrated has been through us, and it's only happens like that because we continue to, you know what I'm saying, we continue to not face the real monster in the room, and that's the man next to you, the sister
Yep.
next to you. That's the
Yep.
monster. The biggest monster. We already know what everybody else feels about us. So like for me, I'm wired to already expect the worst from anybody else other than us. You know what I mean? But the
Yeah.
dagger comes when it comes from us. So and that's why we're easily infiltrated. We're easily infiltrated because we don't think the man. How you think that these drug dealers were able to successfully get everybody hooked on fucking drugs? Because we trust each other, right? So your man's come up to you and
Yeah.
say, "Yo, try this, try that, right? Try this. This finna make you feel good." What you thinking? You're not thinking he finna fuck your life up. You're not thinking
Yeah.
you finna take some shit that's finna take you out this fucking world, either by
Bingo.
overdose or either by just becoming just becoming stuck on a habit that gets you habit formed where you'll never be the same again because we trust each other for the most part.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
for me it's more detrimental. When I say what's the most harmful, it's us. It's more harmful. Because if a white dude was to come up to me and offer me a drug, I am not taking that shit. Because I don't trust this motherfucker. But if
They
you come up
found they
but if you come up to me, huh?
they found their way to the hood.
You know what I'm saying? Right. But
They found their way to the hood.
if you come up to me and say, "Yo, Ghost, try this. This shit finna make you feel good." I'm gonna be like, "Yo, this is my man's. I'm gonna
Yeah.
try this." And then when I'm strung the fuck out, you're not even gonna know what hit you because it
Yeah.
was infiltrated by your own. So to me, that's
Yeah.
more harmful. I expect the government to do what the government been doing. I expect the CIA to do what the CIA been doing. The fucking FBI was made by the most racist motherfucker in the globe. Fucking Hoover, J. Edgar Hoover.
Yeah.
He was the most racist motherfucker that there was. His thing was to stop the next black messiah. That was his thing. He do not want black people getting on top. So we get it. That ain't no secret. But my brother should not be coming to me, and that's why the story of Cain and Abel is so. That's why I know the Bible was full of black people because that is niggas. Cain and Abel is niggas. It was not another motherfucker that came from somewhere and sold that shit or got jealous of it. No, that jealousy shit is a black trait. That's what niggas do, bro. You get a
No,
better.
it's not a black trait. You want to know how America and Russia don't get along? Because Russia got jealous of all the other countries taking different parts of Africa, and they felt like they wasn't getting a fair share. So
See what I'm saying?
jealousy isn't just a black thing, bro. That's a human thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
Yeah, no, no,
But
yeah,
I get what you're
and
saying.
you're
I get
right.
what you're saying.
Every now listen, every nationality, every other country does whatever they do. But remember, I don't give a fuck about nobody else. I care
Yeah,
about
I got you. I
I
got
care
you.
about my people.
I
So
got you.
when I go out on a limb, when I see other countries getting fucked up or fucking each other up, damn, that's fucked up. But when I see my people getting fucked up, it hit different. Cause it's
Yeah,
like
you're right.
it's a motherfucker that's a brother or sister of mine. Damn,
Right.
god damn. You know what I'm saying? But if I see somebody else get fucked up, damn, that's so sorry it happened to you. But I feel it when it happens to my own. You know, so
Yeah, I can
I
dig it.
I,
Yeah.
I feel like that time frame and I see it today. Like I said, I was a victim of it. I glorified gangster shit. I've glorified drugs. I glorified all that shit, bro. But I had a limit. You ask anybody that know me, you know what I'm saying? I was all about selling weed, man. You know what I mean? I wasn't about selling crack. I seen what it did to the neighborhoods, bro. So I never got it. That stopped me from getting into the game. My passion for, okay, if I get you strung out on some weed, I didn't see people ODing on weed. I didn't see people half-assed out on weed. And see, remember, I'm an 80s baby. So this is before niggas was lacing the shit with embalming fluid and all that dumb shit. This
Yeah,
was
that
straight
crazy
green.
stuff,
You know what
man.
I mean?
Yeah,
Motherfuckers was straight weed. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So when I was
yeah,
selling that shit, it was actually to make you feel good. So I did not see that as a crime. Whereas with the cocaine, with the crack, with all that shit, that was fucking people up. So
yeah,
I made the decision. Yeah, I can make more money selling crack. I can make more money getting into the cocaine, but why would I want to get into that and destroy the people that I'm at? If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna go do it to somebody else's shit. You know what I mean? And they had limits for that. I'm telling you, the other nationalities in that time frame, way before now. Now it's different. You know, we in the 2000s. Shit, you can sell to the Chinese motherfucker. You can sell to anybody. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure other neighborhoods has been infiltrated with drugs. But in that time, in the beginning, in the 70s and shit like that, nah, bro. Motherfuckers had they line up like, look, sell that shit over in your neighborhood, and if I catch you over here, it's gonna be war. That's how it was. That's how
yeah,
it was. So everybody formed in off the greed of the black man's back. Black motherfuckers was greedy. They wanted to get that money. They wanted to get it quick. They wanted the next whip. They want the next change. And remember, 70s, we talking hip hop. We talking about that's when Rakim and them was coming on with the big dookie chains. You know what I mean? That's when niggas was on TV talking about paid in full. You know what I mean? So niggas was looking at that, like what you were saying about how did this come out the blue? It came out the blue from niggas looking up, seeing another nigga make it. And they like, wait a minute, how did he make it that fast? This nigga was just in the projects. How the hell did he make it? Oh, this nigga was selling drugs, got studio time. Now he rapping. That's how that shit started spiraling. Again, it's a gateway to get into the money quick. But had they said this shit gonna destroy the community, let me go another route. Even if I gotta sell drugs, let me go selling the weed and shit. You know what I'm saying? Something more lighter. It would have been different. But everybody know the real money was in the cocaine. The real money was in the crack. That was the quick money. So that's why I feel like the motherfuckers are the most harmful. And listen, I looked up to these motherfuckers. I looked up to drug dealers. I looked up to all that shit. And like I said, I can't sit here and say that I wasn't a drug dealer, but I didn't sell cocaine or crack or nothing like that that would kill a community. I stayed with some shit that was gonna keep you, you know what I'm saying, that I didn't see anybody dying off of. And I feel like they could have
yeah.
made the same decision, but niggas want to get paid, bro. Just like
Man,
now.
niggas want to get paid.
Niggas
But
want
you
to
know what, man? I thank God. I thank God, man. Anytime I had even a thought, it was like right on target, right on time. Something happened to somebody, bro. Somebody go to jail.
get
Somebody
mm-hmm.
might get shot. Got
Mm-hmm.
thrown out. Relative might have an encounter with the police.
Mm,
Man, like somebody might even, bro, it was like it was on point. A death might happen or something, bro. Like every
mm.
time I thought, like, man, I need to make some more money.
Yeah.
Some shit always happened, bro. Like I don't know if it was like a divine intervention, but it
Hell yeah.
was always the perfect timing for me to just be like, nah. It was kind of like Mike Epps, man. He was like, I'm trying to be a gangster, but you really got to do that shit. Like, nah, they ain't trying to do that. So I was able to learn the other way. When I seen all this shit happening, man,
Hmm.
I was smart enough to know I didn't want that. So I
Yeah,
just stayed to the ground, man.
yeah.
Stayed
And they
on the
had a
ground.
choice, man. They had a choice. Like I said, 70s, bro, shit. And you know, like I said, when you say the welfare shit, that was the opening for the government to be able to come in and kick out the male role model portion. Because but again, it was infiltrated through black men going to jail for doing some type of crime. They did, and when I say crime, not all. We know there was some bogus, you know, there are always some bogus charges and shit. But I'm
Yeah.
talking about a majority of the arrests was a motherfucker get caught selling maybe a little bit, not even a big distributor, but he get 30 years for selling whatever he was selling. Two rocks. This nigga sell two crack rocks, and they sent his ass to jail for 30 years. Right. So
Yeah.
now the house is broken up, and now they can infiltrate the house with, hey, we got welfare now for you. But we got to remember again, we still can't remember. Like you say, history. I'm big on Black history. I'm big on that. You had the Black Panthers at that time that had WIC. There, you know who started WIC? That was Black Panthers started that
Yeah,
shit.
Black Panther.
They started that shit. They had medical facilities. They had food. They had food where they was giving out. That's who the drug dealers copied these niggas with this giving out turkeys and shit. They copied that shit from looking at what the Panthers was doing, but instead the Panthers was doing that shit off some real positive shit, off some real care for the community type shit. These dudes were not. These dudes want to get the next Nikes that came out. They want to get the next shoes and shit. You know what I'm saying? The hottest shoes. Go stand on the corner and go hit the club and be the freshest nigga in the club type shit. That's what they was on. They ain't give a fuck about no community. Them niggas get their money. Now they give a fuck about who they put on. Like, look at Lucas put his whole family on, right? But is he really looking out for his family? Them niggas is coming from fucking way out in the sticks. They don't know shit about how the streets work. And you employ them in the most dangerous field and occupation that you could fucking possibly have. Come on. Nah, he was supposed to get that money and get legit jobs for them to have if he was looking out. But he just needed somebody he could trust more to help him do the dirt. That's what it came out to be. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Like,
it ain't hard to convince somebody to make more of what they to it ain't hard to convince somebody to
mhm,
uh, that wants to get more, and
mhm.
you can supply them with what they want more of. It's not going to be hard to convince them not to do something, and that's in any field, anything. So,
Mhm.
the guy put his family on. I'm pretty sure they need more money, man. And
But I'm
it
saying,
happened like that, bro.
I'm saying, I'm saying they needed more money, which is a vulnerability, right? So he did
Yeah,
what the CIA did to black motherfuckers. He infiltrated his own family through a vulnerability. The CIA knew that motherfuckers wanted money. They knew motherfuckers was hurting for money. They knew niggas needed money in the hood. So they dropped that drug shit there, knowing that motherfuckers was gonna pick it up and sell it to make money. In return, destroy the community. Whereas he did the same with the family. If he saw the vulnerability in his brothers, they not making no money, they broke, they you know what I'm saying, they naive, they don't even know what the fuck really going on. So he used that to employ them into a fucking business that eventually took them all out, took everybody out except him. He
yeah,
snitched on all the dirty cops and living some fucking where chilling. But his family
yeah,
members locked the fuck away, destroyed from their
yeah,
house, took from their household, took from their
yeah,
family. You know what I mean? This is what I'm
yeah.
saying about niggas can be your worst enemy. Your own people could be your worst enemy because you never see it coming. His
Mhm.
brothers never saw that shit coming. Them niggas are sitting up in jail saying right now, this motherfucker's out chilling. I'm out here doing football numbers. This nigga out here chilling because he done ratted on the dirty cops and shit, and whoever else he ratted on.
Well,
Yeah,
shit, his brother said he ratted on the dirty cops. Shit, they always was,
and I think one of them ratted
but
on
you
him.
don't
The,
find it
the cousin,
interesting.
cousin ratted on him.
You don't find it interesting that after the civil rights bill was passed, that African Americans or Black Americans, whatever anybody want to be called,
Mhm.
uh, has been in survival mode. You don't think that a majority since the Civil Rights Act, a
Yeah,
majority of us has been in survival mode. It ain't like
for
after
sure.
the Civil Rights Act.
Yeah.
he ended up in a better position. They just started inviting everybody else that wasn't back to the country. Now they past just bringing the Europeans over. Now they bringing the Arabs over. Well,
Yeah.
one of my buddies from here uh, was talking about how he was taking out his uncle in California, looking at Michael Jordan. You
Mm.
know what I'm saying? I'm saying in Atlanta ain't even been outside Fulton County. And this dude, you know what I'm saying? So they brought the Asians over. I was talking to this guy from Vietnam, talking about how his family came over. Of course, they was well to do, but they don't just let anybody over here. They
Mhm.
was well to do, and he was talking about how successful they was. I'm like, because the Civil Rights Act was passed, and they needed to make sure that they gave everybody an opportunity, bro. They even gave the indigenous Americans reparations, bro.
Yeah, I
The
know.
Indians, the people who call Indians,
Yeah.
they get reparations. The Jews got reparations. Everybody's getting the. If I'm not mistaken, because there was an issue with I forgot what Asian country, but there was a type of reparation that even went to the Chinamen and their Asian counterparts. Well, there has been so much given to people to say, "Hey, we're going to help repair your community," but ours, we haven't gotten that. So since we're in survival mode and all of our promised wealth has gone to every community,
Yeah.
it's not going to be hard to convince these guys, hey, you can't get a job. How
Yeah.
about I'm gonna show you how to make a little extra money, and it's jacked up, bro. I hate it because I have an auntie that died, and she was the coolest auntie ever, man.
Yeah.
And I still think about it to this day. And I don't think that a lot of them thought about that until it was too late. Because like now the mindset is we gotta hustle no matter what.
Yeah.
And so it's like once you do a number on the person's mind, you ain't gotta do nothing else. It works just like the nigga who was a slave, the slave masters, like just like the guy that used to be a slave, he worked his way into the master's house and now he owns slaves. The black guy's a slave. It's a mentality, bro. And man, the black guy was a slave on the slave. It's so crazy, bro. You could do some damage to a person's mind, like. And I love going back to the continent of Africa. Like, why is African countries reaching out for aid? Like Russia literally told them we will give you grain. Nigga, Africa don't need no fucking grain. They grow their own shit. No African country below the Sahara need no grain.
Yeah.
And then I had a guy to tell me that there's not enough. That's the mentality they make them have. We can grow
But
our own stuff, but we reaching out to y'all to help us.
yeah. But
That's
you know
mental killing, bro.
one other thing though, bro. This is what
Mhm.
always this is what always gets me back to, again, one of the major issues is, and that's the main issue. Listen, I'm with you 100% on that. They have
Yeah.
fucked with giving back the bread. They get a bread to empower everybody else, and everybody has taken that money then to make generational wealth, because we gotta realize that plantations and shit is still making money. Because
Oh,
those
bro,
people
let's not forget these companies that are wealthy
yeah,
because of the past, like your Wells Fargo's,
exactly,
your Michelin,
because of that.
your
But
Good Years. Yeah,
but
bro, like these folks,
but here's
they
my
not
thing.
giving that money back to us. They not
But
gonna, my last name is Shropshire. There's a whole country named after me, bro. I, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like, we're not getting we're not getting that money. We're not getting no, with
yeah.
that. Hey,
But to
this is
close
why they,
but to close out the drug thing, that has nothing to do with none of that. The drug shit is a choice, in my opinion. Drug shit is a choice. They had two different movements going on in the 70s. They had the empowerment of black people, and then they had to get the
mm,
drugs and get money quick. You either chose one
mm,
of the routes. You chose to join the street shit, fuck with the gangs, fuck with the drugs, get money fast, elevate that way,
mm,
or fight
mm,
for your shit and get it where it would have been generational. That's what them leaders was trying to get shit set for generational methods. Whereas they were destroyed by two people. See, people don't talk about this. The Panthers was getting kicked out of neighborhoods by street gangs. In Chicago, they was beefing with a bunch of street gangs who kicked them out. They weren't successful with, they showed it on a movie where they talked to some gangs and they was going with it, But majority of the gangs wasn't going with that shit. And they was like, fuck that. We run this block. Government is giving us aid. Because remember, governments funded gang organizations too. A lot of gang
Mm.
organizations received money from the government. And but they knew who they was giving that money to. They didn't fund the Panthers. They funded these guys who they knew was going to take that money, build it, go
And
re-up
mess up the
on
community.
the
Yeah.
drug, and
Yeah,
go
because
do
if you think about it, because if you think about it, if they would have funded the Panthers, man, a lot of things, the Panthers would have been able to get a lot of things done, man.
that
So
concept.
I do think that it all ties together, man. I just my biggest thing with us now is uh everything is just so out of control now, man. And
Yeah,
and it's so out of
because we won't take the accountability. Look at this. You got all these fucking millionaires, bro. Billionaires, bro. How come I'm not seeing neighborhoods have the problem with kids that's in the streets right now is that they don't have a job. Now we in the same issue, right? We in the same predicament that was back in the 70s when crack and shit was dropped in these neighborhoods for a way out, a quick way out, right? We got the same fucking problems going on. But the difference is now you got niggas with money. You got dudes with legit money. You got Rick Ross that invested in all these motherfucking different
green
businesses.
stop.
This nigga got 20 businesses and he hosting a
Yeah.
fucking pool party. Bruh, you should be hosting a job seminar, giving these kids jobs. Go back to the neighborhood, talk to these young cats, but employ them. That's the problem, man. Now you got your rappers that have taken over the drug because there ain't no, let's be honest, there ain't no big drug dealer niggas walking around the neighborhoods no more. Like back in the day. 70s and all that, you had big boys before they was locked up and shit,
Yeah.
was in the streets, right?
Yeah.
Accessible.
Yeah.
Like now,
Yeah.
it ain't no big, there ain't no BMFs walking around. There ain't no, you know what I'm saying? There's no big drug lords, kingpins that's accessible. Now it's the rappers. The rappers are the new wave of the drug dealers. They have became the drug dealers. As far as they rapping about the shit in the music, they trying to show that this is what you need to do to get this money. So kids is looking at that and now they chasing that dream. Now they chasing the dream of, oh, you got to be really street. If you saying you a street nigga, you can't be rapping about it and you ain't slid on nobody, right? So now the culture is you got to go actually slide on a nigga before you actually can get the credit of being a rapper. You know what I'm saying? A gangster rapper. So now you can't pull the NWA shit where they was talking all that violent shit and them niggas wasn't shooting nobody, right? Them niggas was rapping about a lot of this shit that they weren't doing. But it was okay because niggas wasn't trying to fact check. It was music. Now you got to actually be doing the shit because some nerd is on a computer fact checking your ass. Wait a minute, he said he did this or that. And guess who the nerd is? Some young white boy that's fucking in high school somewhere. He doing the research, finding out your ass ain't slid on nobody.
Yeah.
But he's been followed by 1,000 YouTube viewers. So now your fucking reputation is on the line. Again, we're being infiltrated through our own. Whereas, why is Rick Ross, why is P. Diddy gifting another rich motherfucker a go-kart and mansions and shit? Why you not gifting some of these young niggas on the block a job, man? Why you not gifting them a scholarship to go to school? You know what I'm saying? This is what I'm saying about, yeah, we know the government's plan. I don't know why people always even think that they gonna do anything different than what they
Different.
have been
Yeah.
doing for
I
years.
agree with you that. Yeah.
And these
I
niggas
agree.
ain't did nothing for years. It's obvious. So now now the new game is get money. Where's the Kanye's? Why Kanye ain't back in Chicago going to O Block and putting up a fucking restaurant somewhere or putting up some sports center over there somewhere where these kids can be working there as a motherfucking, you know what I'm saying? Because kids don't, when you show up to people that's in poverty, they don't want to hear no, hey, do the right thing. They want to hear how to get this money. So that's
Yeah.
why they infiltrated by these all of the criminal shit because that's the only people talking to them and giving them a job. The rest of the motherfuckers ain't nobody giving them a job. The rest of the motherfuckers get rich and they sitting on. Look at DJ Khaled. How many Hispanic neighborhoods you think Khaled and went over there? He out golfing and shit. How many neighborhoods have he went to and made a golf course out in that motherfucker and created job? When you open these businesses, you create jobs. You know what I'm
Yeah, I
saying?
thought DJ Khaled was like Arab or something like that.
That nigga Latino. I think he either
Really,
Latino
with a
or
name like
Caribbean.
Khaled, with a name like Khaled, that's Arab, man.
I seen him go overseas, but I'm pretty sure he's Latino, bro. He was over there
Ah,
with showing him and shit. He was with Terror
yeah,
Squad. I think he's Latino, but I do see him doing a lot of Caribbean music and shit. So he could have some
yeah,
background of Caribbean too. But my thing is
yeah.
golfing. Let's go golfing. Let's go golfing. Niggas ain't golfing. Niggas,
Mm-mm.
yeah, niggas is dying in the street. Take your ass to a neighborhood, employ these kids, get them off the street with a real job, get them off the street and get them into doing and employ them. You can't go to the street and talk to them because they're not gonna want to hear that shit. Go to the streets and get these kids and save them. What you waiting on the government to save them? We already know the motherfucking government ain't gonna save them. So that's my issue. Is like we got to start taking accountability like the Panthers did. The Panthers took accountability. They didn't wait for the government. They knew they wasn't getting shit from the government. So they took initiative to start putting the little money they could get. Them niggas had jobs. A lot of them niggas had jobs. You know what I'm saying? They put their money together and start building shit, started creating shit. If they could do it back in the 70s and shit, bro, come on, dog. Ain't no excuse for these niggas now. These niggas got money now. Easy money.
Yeah,
It ain't even no record label. Look at Suge. Look what Suge did with Death Row. He created money for these people. You know what I'm saying? He created jobs. They start taking gang members and shit and had them just in the studio, do this, do that. Just the issue is you can't serve two masters. You can't be still gang banging and call yourself elevating. You know what I'm saying? You
yeah,
can't do two masters. If you gonna elevate, that will be my thing. Okay, I'm finna take you out of this lifestyle, but you gotta drop all that. You know what I mean? And I don't want to hear nothing about, oh, you can't get out of gangs no more. Gangs ain't like how they was back in the day where it was blood in, blood out. That shit over with. Niggas claiming
yeah,
shit, dropping shit the next day. Niggas claiming one thing and flipping to the next thing, something way over on the other. There's no code. There's no more violations. There's no now maybe deep in the neighborhoods where niggas ain't left that neighborhood. Those street gangs, they still abiding by those rules. But the mass majority, if you walk up on a block, you ain't seeing no real gang members. Those are just niggas just saying that, but they really out there just trying to get money. You know what I mean? So they would be more than willing to be able to drop it and it wouldn't be no backlash. But they're not trying to elevate the youth, bro. They just bragging about Wingstop and how many car washes and shit they didn't owned and all that. That's the problem, bro. That's the issue. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? The number one issue, yes, is the government not giving back to people. But what you think these motherfuckers would do if the government gave them money right now? Motherfuckers wouldn't go
You
build
know,
no. Them motherfuckers go re up. Them
there
niggas go re
ain't
up.
gonna be no reason to though. They can do some other stuff with that money, man. Ain't no point in,
They could.
well, you know what? They gonna re up and take everybody else's money. They're gonna be the dumbest thing ever, man. But I can see that scenario happen, man. But
Yeah,
shit, that probably should be a topic for
yeah.
like
That's
what
gonna
should
be
happen
another one.
with reparations, man. Because I know that's a big topic, man. My cousin talks about that a while, man. You know, whether you get people money, it was a whole thing, man. But I think that'd be a good topic, bro.
It's gonna be a great topic, bro. And to close this out, because we're going in a little over an hour, which was great. We got down to some real details. I know you didn't finish watching Snowfall yet, right?
Let me
But
get on it.
yeah, get on that, bro. For the viewers out there that have saw Snowfall, that was the same predicament. You had Franklin who grew up in a neighborhood that was a poor neighborhood, but they were living. Again, you got to understand that there's a difference between comfortability and there's a difference between um, living and a hardship living and comfortability, right? Or dyer's need. Dyer's need, you homeless, you out on the street, you got no job, you living in the fucking ground, you sleeping on the fucking ground. Yeah, you just fight or flight. You gotta fucking try to find any way to get some money. But then there's comfortability. Niggas just want to live in a mansion. So the way to get to that mansion quicker is to sell drugs. And that's what in that scenario, in that series, you saw that. They even touch on the basis of that while they're there, there are while Franklin was on his upcoming to try to get more money and yada yada yada, you know what I'm saying? Enough was never enough for this dude. Every time he got some money, guess what? He wanted to go get more money. You know what I mean? Every time he got a business, he didn't get a business to put people in a position to have legal money. He was trapping all these motherfuckers into illegal money. The only dude that was trying to do something was the guy, his uncle Jerome, who ended up getting a sound system store, investing into his own sound shop. But the issue with that was he was still fucking with Franklin. He was still selling drugs. So how the fuck you gonna run a legit business if you still fucking with the drugs? Now they can get you for that. So the government CIA was involved, and they were flooding Franklin with all the drugs he wanted. Every time he wanted drugs to flood his community, they had that shit on site for him. Easy peasy. Okay? But they also show that he could not take that shit over in the Mexican neighborhood. Mexicans would not allow it. When he tried to sell anything over there, it was a no-fly zone. You not selling that shit in our community. Okay? There is no scene in the Mexican neighborhood where the people are strung out like how they were over there in the black community. Not saying that there weren't people who use drugs in these other neighborhoods, which of course they have. But again, that's self destruction. They would get a drug and go to another neighborhood and go buy the drug and go home and smoke it in their neighborhood and fuck around and OD or fuck around and get strung out. But nobody was selling that shit to they people in their neighborhood, minus the black people. At least that's what was depicted. And they're getting facts from back then. So this shit was based off of what the facts that they got. And you don't see no other community selling that shit within the community. They were pushing it to the blacks to do. Now Mexicans came second, and I'm not Mexican, so I really don't know they fight or flight. But I do know that just like what you were saying, at a certain point, you got some hungry, ruthless motherfuckers from their era that started doing the same shit. That's why they call them our cousins, because them motherfuckers they get just as ruthless as we do. They start selling to their people, and that's when the demise of they shit started happening. But for us, that was the thing. And then there was a cop that noticed Franklin was selling drugs in the neighborhood, right? He lived next door to Franklin. He saw the shit happening. The neighborhood only was selling weed at one point, and that's when it was calm. People weren't strung out. People was just smoking weed, right? He saw Franklin getting cocaine or getting crack and starting to sell that shit in the neighborhood, and he started trying to do something about it. He started trying to stop Franklin from selling the shit. When Franklin wasn't trying to hear what he was saying, he was like, fuck that, I'm still selling this shit. He went to the police department because he was a cop, and he told them, hey, look, there's a new drug that's in our neighborhood that's killing our neighborhood. The cops there were mostly white, of course, and they thought the drugs was in another neighborhood. So what they did was, since they saw it was not in that neighborhood, when they saw it wasn't in the white neighborhood, they didn't give a fuck. They did one raid, and that was it. But it wasn't a priority. It wasn't in their neighborhood. So it just goes to show that how we kind of, a lot of times, and that's going to be another topic we're going to touch on too, how we glorify the toxic people in our community, and we don't glorify the people that are actually really caring about the neighborhood. People that really want to try to make a difference, we criticize them, ostracize them, talk shit about them. But then the motherfucker who gonna get your cousin or get your sister or get your mom or, get your father strung out on some drugs, you know what I'm saying? That's the person we glorify. You know what I mean? And it's sad to see, man. But hey, bro, this was a hell of a conversation, man. Love to have you on the show, bro. We definitely got some more topics to touch on. The viewers out there, appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all tuning in. And we gonna get this thing going again, man. I'm gonna release the next topic, and we gonna get on that next. It's good to have you on here, brother.
Yeah, man, we're gonna do it again. Keep the momentum going, bro.
Let's do it, brother. Let's do it.
Don't stop your hustle, bro.
Good. Appreciate you, brother, man. But we'll get at it on the next one, brother.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
All right, bro.
All right, brother. One.
Powered by Riverside FM.